We thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to start with a brief opening statement from Coach Babers, and after that, same drill, raise your hand, we'll call for questions.
We're excited to play Virginia Tech, and Coach Fuentes does a fantastic job down there. We're looking excited to going to that venue. I've never been there personally in 35 years, and I hear it's a heck of a place to play. I know the team's excited about going down there, and we know it's going to be a difficult task. I also know there's going to be a lot of questions about the transfer portal and Tommy DeVito. Let me say this, that we had a conversation yesterday. Tommy was very mature about the things that he expressed to me. Those were some private things. We're tied at the hip. I love that guy. He's part of our family. He's going to always be a part of our family. We're going to always root for him. And we wish him nothing but the best, we really do. He's going to graduate with his degree in December, and we're excited about that he's going to always be orange, and we wish him nothing but the best in the future. You know, the transfer portal is kind of like the new normal. This is very unusual for me. I know that there was a similar situation at Clemson with Coach Sweeney and Bryant and Trevor Lawrence a couple of years back, but you know, this is new ground for me as a head coach. And all those young men are the captain of their own ships, and they get to make their own decisions. And sometimes they need to do what's best for them in their situation. We're going to respect that. We're going to understand that. And you know, he knows that I'm always rooting for him. And I hope that he gets everything that he's looking for because he deserves it. Any questions on Virginia Tech?
Raise your hand for questions. We'll come around. Get you. Mark, first.
Coach, this obviously has impacted you, his decision. Can you talk about that? I mean, when you brought him in, he was kind of like your big recruit. And so how much does it impact you, a guy like him?
I'm not going to get into the private stuff, but I mean, I'm attached to him. You know, people may not believe that, but I mean, his well-being and him doing well is extremely important to me.
And you had mentioned when you made the quarterback decision that you had a starter and a reliever. Was that still the case Friday? And if so, why did you not go to your reliever when your starters were struggling?
Well, first of all, I don't need to explain that part of it, but I thought we had our best chance to win with the person that was in the game based off of what I saw going out there and what they were going to do. There's adjustments to games, and I'm not going to get into that. I did get into that with Tommy, but I'm not going to do that publicly.
Stephen?
Looking at kind of the big picture with Tommy, going back to recruiting him, and a lot of other schools wanted to try and flip him. Just how disappointing is it that vision that you guys had was never able to really fully come to fruition?
You know, it's hard, you know, because we saw things the same way, and we, just like the words you used, we envisioned a certain type of ending. And it's just different times, and things change. And with that change comes change. And it didn't work out the way that we both anticipated, but I hope it works out the way he anticipated it somewhere else. And I will do anything in my power to help him wherever he wants to go, because he's going to get a recommendation from me.
I think Tommy has become, over the years, subject to public scrutiny on how much of the offense's issues are on him, how much of it is offensive line, play calling, receivers. How capable do you think he is of succeeding maybe in a different environment, in a different, with protection, with things like that?
Again, those conversations me and Tommy had, and one thing I told him yesterday was I'm not going to comment publicly on stuff like that. If someone calls me and wants me to give a recommendation for Tommy DeVito, I will talk, but publicly I'm not going to do anything like that.
Chris?
You know, I think people are still grappling with the idea of players leaving, especially mid-year. Us, fans. Does Tommy preserve anything eligibility-wise by leaving now and versus finishing out the year?
The answer to your question is no.
original player from the transfer portal, if it agrees to, is that something that you would agree to should the situation present itself, or is that bridge no?
You know, with Tommy, I don't think he's different. You treat everybody the same, but Tommy DeVito is different. So I'm not going to comment on that, but I'm just letting you know that when you're a quarterback and you're in a situation that he was in, him and I have shared a lot of things. And some of those things just don't need to be shared. So you treat all your sons the same, but you understand that some of them are different. And Tommy's one of those guys that are different.
And then I have a bit of an unorthodox question. So I know some NFL teams have a designated person that works as a game clock manager or a game theory manager or something of that nature. Now obviously there's plenty of reasons that's not the case in college. And I guess hypothetically speaking, is that something that you guys could benefit from? Like money aside, like those other things aside, someone to kind of look after those things and just those things?
We actually have one of those.
Okay. Who can I ask?
No.
Okay.
Brent, and then Steve again.
Coach, I wonder if this is an iron sharpens iron thing, but 3 straight games you've lost right down to the end, 3 points, so close yet so far away. How do you think the team is handling this?
I think they're handling like young people. They're disappointed, just like the older people are disappointed. But just like older people, okay, when you acquire knowledge, which is the power, you understand that sometimes things don't work out exactly the way you want to work out. When you're 60 and 56 and 54, you understand that stuff. When you're 18 and 19 and 21, you want to hit reset and start all over again on that game and not kind of struggle through the tough times. The tough times is what makes you. Okay, all the grass is being grown in the valley. It's not growing on top of the mountain. And like I said, we're gonna rebound from this, and it's gonna make these guys better, stronger, faster, whether it's on the football field or their family endeavors or their job endeavors down the road. Difficult times is when people grow.
Stephen, and then Alex in back.
Looking at kind of your offensive blueprint and what you guys want to be, without Tommy and Taj, I mean, to me, it kind of sets up for what you pivoted to, right? Garrett and Sean and running the ball. How does that affect your recruiting, and how does that affect, I guess, your overall mindset toward wanting to be successful, not just this year, but in future years, right? Is this something you're going to now recruit around?
I don't think it's a shift. I think, once again, I think it's a chess game where you're just playing with your strongest pieces. And as your pieces change, your game should change. I mean, we don't want to be like the dinosaurs. You know, there's certain times when we came in here, I thought that our receivers were extremely strong. And we used that with a very mobile quarterback, okay? I thought we had good backs, but we haven't had anybody like Sean. Sean is different, okay? And the biggest waste that we could do is treat him like he's not different. Just treat him like he's the same when he's not. He's something that doesn't come along very often. So we need to use that, and that's what we're doing.
I imagine that helps when you go recruit offensive linemen to come in and say, hey, you know what I mean, see what we're doing here. How does the message change for quarterbacks and receivers? You know, you've leaned on the big statistical numbers that you put up at Eastern Illinois and Bowling Green and Amba and Ish.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do you convince those guys that this is kind of based on the personnel we have now, and if we can, you know, get a vertical game going with you here, we'll do it.
I'll steal a page from NC State when they had 2 really good quarterbacks and they told a guy named Russell Wilson that, you know, he needed to go somewhere else and play because they had a really good one. And I forget the guy that ended up at the Chicago Bears. Russell Wilson goes to Wisconsin. They run the ball a whole bunch, and he was back to, am I getting the right college? He did go to Wisconsin, correct?
Yes.
And they ran the ball the whole bunch, and he threw the ball a little bit, and then he went to Seattle, and now he's one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, throwing the ball all around the yard. I think it was just a matter that you've got to do what's best for the many more so than do what's best for the few.
Alex, and then Mike in front.
Dino, a Virginia Tech question.
Oh,
I know you appreciate that. Virginia Tech, what makes them so tough? What will be the biggest challenge this week?
you know, I think they went through, I can't, I'm going to stop. Let me retract that statement because I know Justin and I'm not going to share that. They are a football team. You know, they've started off, they had a tough loss versus Pitt last week, but that team has a lot of pride. They've gone through some things, and they really, really do play together. They have an opportunity for a really good year. They're sitting at 3-3, 1-1 in the conference. Playing at their place is different. Everyone, I'm calling around and they're like, Coach, this is a different deal. You know, it's like you're going to LSU Death Valley, or you're going to play Penn State at Penn State, or Michigan at Michigan. This is a different deal, and you need to prepare your team for the noise and the things that's going to be happening in that stadium. So we're excited about going down there. We're excited about having another opportunity to get a W, but it's a very, very difficult place to play, and that's a very good football team.
Mike and then Tommy.
Hey Dino, I know you said earlier before the season started that you had a pretty good quarterback room. Now that DeVito is pretty much not a part of the program anymore, who do you see as that option coming in on the depth chart to back up Garrett?
Jacobian will be the number 2 as we start, and then we'll continue to evaluate the quarterbacks.
Tommy and Mark.
Coach, watching the Clemson game over, the speed of the defensive ends that Tiger defense had, do you see any other opponent in this regular season containing and shutting down Garrett on the run like we saw on Friday?
Well, I'll tell you what, I do remember last week being in here that some people said that Clemson didn't have any good players. And I kept looking at that defense being ranked. That is a very, very good defense. I was just talking to someone about 25 minutes ago about the people's hands that they wanted to go shake, you know, on that other side to watch that defense play. Coach Venables does a fantastic job with that defense. And not only they're athletic and skilled, but they play a certain way. And we would like to, you know, we want our defense to play that way as well. And I think our defense does play that well. I'm not saying that Clemson's defense plays better. I'm saying they play alike. And when you get talented people to play at that level, they're going to be able to do certain things. Now, to the second part of your question, I think that's the best defense that we faced all year. I'm not sure we're going to be able to face something close to that.
Mark and then Chris.
Just to clarify, I know Clemson has good players. They're just not as good as they were, in my opinion. But anyway, so you told us how Tommy's decision impacted you, obviously. When someone like Tommy leaves the program, can you tell me what your message is to the locker room? How does it impact you?
You know, I'm proud of our locker room. First of all, I think they understand it's a family thing. I stayed up last night and I read all the tweets. I read all the stuff. I told you guys I read all that stuff. I'm reading all the information that's going back and forth on the internet. And I think it's right. We're a family. And whether you, especially, watch this, especially when you're a part of us and you're going to graduate from this institution, okay, you are going to be with us forever. Now, he may go and get a master's degree somewhere else, and the other guys that left may go and get a master's degree somewhere else. But the way I look at it, and the way I feel about it, Mark, is that when they come to reunions or they come to homecoming games, they're going to be coming here, okay? I won't be here. I won't see all those sunrises. I won't see all those sunsets. But when they're coming and they're bringing their kids back here, they're coming back orange. And I want the 104 guys that are sitting here to accept them as that. We came in together. We're a family. Sometimes people have to go live on the other side of the country. Sometimes they got to live in a different country. But we're family. We're going to always root for those guys. I mean, I see the guys at Kent State. I love those guys, man. I'm rooting for those guys. When those guys go play somewhere else, I'm rooting for them, okay? So, and I mean that sincerely. It's hard to be emotionally tied to someone and then just totally just go, I don't care about what in the heck they do. That's hard. And that's not how we operate here. I want them to do good and go neener, see what I'm doing. I'm gonna be happy for them. I want to be fired up that they're getting everything that they want.
So the fact he's graduating here in December.
That's big. Yeah, that's big.
Chris.
You know, on special teams this year, I know you divvied up responsibilities versus full-time coordinator. Do you think that's hurt you at all in terms of attention to detail or accountability in the kicking game?
I don't, watch this. I think that we've been okay? And the reason why I say that is because each coach has their individual deal. But there's no doubt that I think if I had the perfect world, that in a theater coming to you soon, that we'll get back to the traditional way of doing things.
Who does the field goal kicking unit sort of turn to, or what do they turn to, especially Andre, I guess, to fix anything that's kind of going on? Okay.
They come to the coaches that are responsible for those units.
Do those guys have?
And now Andre,
Kickers are tough, right?
watch this, Andre normally speaks with me, okay? But I'm not responsible for that unit, but he normally speaks with me because he's like a quarterback. What Andre wants, Andre's gonna get.
How much, right, you can't specialize in everything. How much do you know about the mechanics of kicking? And like, it would be hard to know that.
No,
No?
not after 35 years.
Okay.
Not if you've been a long snapper, not if you've been a holder, and not if you've been a kicker, and not if you've been a coach. No, that's not hard.
Connor and Steve.
Coach, Tommy talked about being, a good teammate, and he alluded to the Jalen Hurts situation at Alabama, being a good backup. What do you think changed after the Clemson game that caused him to kind of move away from that?
Again, you're using the word think, okay? When we spoke last night, we were very clear. I wouldn't call it a short conversation. I wouldn't call it a long conversation. We spoke very clearly to each other, and he came in and told me exactly what was about to happen. And I listened, and then I asked for a few words, and we spoke back and forth about some topics, and then that was it. He was very clear. He was very mature. And if I was his mom and his dad, I'd be very proud on the way he handled it. And I was proud the way he handled it. And that's why I would do anything for him in the future.
And then I wanted to ask about Cody Roscoe, picked up another sack on Friday. What kind of improvement have you seen from him since last season?
I think the biggest thing with Cody is, and I've said this before, is when he came from the lower college, he was one of the best players at that level, but going against fantastic players week after week after week is something that they don't do on those schedules. You may have 1 to 3 games when you're going against our type of competition. And I think that last year was good for him to get used to going against ACC and Big Ten competition. And when he had the offseason to train, he knew what he was missing. He knew what he was lacking. He's always had the courage. He's always had the heart. So you put that work ethic in, and then you come back a second time ready to prove people wrong. And I think that's what you're seeing with Cody Roscoe, and I think he's doing a heck of a job, and I can't wait to see how the second half of the season ends up.
A couple more questions. We'll start right here with Steve.
I wanted to follow up on Roshan's question about.
Okay, I didn't muffled me on the first one.
Sorry, I wanted to follow up on Roshan's question about having someone on staff to help with in-game decisions and the percentages. Without revealing who it is, can you shed a little more light on their role? Like, how much of that is during the week, and how much of that is during the game? You're facing a decision. Like, do you have someone in your ear with those numbers, or next to you showing to you?
The answer is yes.
Is that their full-time role during the game?
The answer is yes.
How do you weigh that against, you said you sent Andre out there because you felt like you had momentum. You initially wanted to go for 2 against Wake Forest because of what you saw. How do you balance those things? And I guess how much stock do you put in the numbers versus your gut as a coach who's been doing it for 35 years?
I think that you have to look at numbers. I think numbers is what everyone looks at, and I think you always got to have a room to make a gut decision. If not, you're just a clone. And I think sometimes you got to bring the emotion part into it.
How often would you say you've gone with the numbers this year that you've been given?
I cannot tell you.
The majority of the time? The vast majority?
I cannot tell you.
Last couple questions. We'll start with Brent.
Coach, just following up on that a little bit, it felt like that kick was a gut decision because the numbers didn't line up with Andre in the 40 to 49 range. Just when you looked at that moment in a way, the field goal versus going for it on 4th and 1, just take me into that moment in life. Is that what your gut told you, that he's going to make this? And just to add to that, unfortunately, it turned into a play where there was a snap that was a little tough. I think the laces were in. And so is that happening, or how would you describe all that?
Okay, you asked a lot. So
I did. Sorry.
Tell me exactly what the question you want to ask.
Basically, was that one of those moments you went with a gut decision? Because the numbers don't really line up there in terms of how you've been doing in that range.
No, I think first of all, I asked, before the drive started, I asked the young man how far he could kick it. I said, how far can you hit this thing going in this direction? And he gave me a number, and I just said, no, we're not kicking from there. And the number that we sat in was more inside of that, way inside of that, based off of what he said to me. Now, you got to understand, this is a guy that just 2 weeks ago kicked a winner. He's hit a 54-yarder. He's hit a 51-yarder, and we're not talking about in domes. We're talking about outside, win, elements. So for me to say that the Lugosa guy can't kick a 48-yard field goal to put us on a tie, okay? He believes he can do it. I believed he could do it as well, regardless of what his previous numbers were. He's been consistently good, not occasionally great. You're talking about over 4 years, right? Not a one-year guy.
Last question, come right here.
Coach, when it comes to analytics, obviously Syracuse has one of the best sport management programs in the country in Falk. How tapped into you are when it comes to working with people from Falk, or are you tapped into?
With the analytics, the numbers, we have other guys that push the numbers to me, and then we go over the numbers. But I don't work directly with them. Okay.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.